Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. This was supposed to be a max video, but since those cards still are not on February, we'll have to wait once again. Instead, I thought it'd be better to go over Rhinar Reckless Rampage, one of my favorite Flesh and Blood heroes. Because Rhinar is pretty basic, we're going to go over this one really quick so I don't keep you guys for too long. This is a ad board list, so we'll go over the sideboard pretty much most of the time, but for the first part of the video, let's go over the equipment and the main deck. Rhinar, you guys should know what he does. When you discard a 6 during your turn, you get an Intimidate. Really powerful, really good with things like the wind-ups, Blood Rhinar Bellow, all your discard effects. For the equipment, we have 2 Mandible Claws as our main weapon, because that's just the best thing you can be doing right now as a brute. Scowling Fleshbag, Savage Sash, Apex Bonebreaker, and Scabskin Leathers are just some of the best equipment suite in the entire game. Scowling Fleshbag gives you a defensive Intimidate, which is really powerful. Sash gives you that one really aggressive turn. Bonebreaker is a 5 damage value glove piece, and Scabskin Leathers are really just there for the block, but if you need to, you can roll them. For the actual deck, we have some just standard aggression pieces, Wild Ride and Pulping. Sometimes the Wild Rides will come out versus certain matchups, but it's really just one matchup that will bring out the Wild Ride. Generally, these will stay in the deck. Savage Feast is really powerful because we have a lot of effects that can make agility tokens, Agile Windup, and Smashback Galehorn very powerful to let us start with Savage Feast off a blue and the Feast. We can Feast into Claw into another attack, making this probably one of the better agility token converters. Skullcrack's is really powerful to give us resources to hopefully maybe swing a Claw or play another attack. Splatter Skull is just some really good disruption that Rhinar was given in Rosetta, that we didn't talk about him in Rosetta, so very good card from there. Swing Big, just one of the better brute cards in the game. For the yellows, we already talked about Agile Windup, but also we're on Mighty Windup. The way these work is that Rhinar can actually get an Intimidate off discarding them, so while you're setting up your tokens, you can still get the Intimidate off of the Rhinar ability, so they're not just making the tokens for you. Blood Rhinar Bellow, just because it's the best brute card in the game, hands down. Base Within, even though this is a card that I don't really like playing in some of my brute lists, for the deck like this, it's perfectly fine since we want to be playing multiple attacks a turn reliably, and this guarantees us to get an attack in our hand. Send Packing is just some more disruption. And then Thick-Hide Hunter is another new card that gives us a 6 power, 6 block card in our deck. It has no additional costs, so it can just be a 2 for 6 if it's the last card in our hand, same as defense. But of course, you do have to randomly discard a card if it's attacking or defending. That can hurt you sometimes, but generally it will be, again, the last card in your hand, and this downside won't really matter. As well as on offense, you can use it to get an Intimidate if need be. For our blues, Rhinar has gotten a lot of blues that he can actually play. Of course, we're still on the blue Beatdown, the blue Wrecker Romp, and the blue Smashback Galehorn, just because they're some of the best blues that we can play in Brute. We're on 3 Sandsketch Plan because Gamble is pretty good in this type of list, since we have a lot of good disruption, but also just good meaty attacks that we might want to get sometimes. Generally, it's block or pitch, but if you really need it, you can play the Sandsketch Plan. I think that's perfectly fine. This can be any other blue block 3 if you really want it to. I just think Sandsketch Plan is a pretty good tool. Sigil of Cycles is a new card from Rosetta. Pretty much, this is a discard draw at the start of your turn, which means it turns on your Mandible Claws, and because it's drawn your action phase, you get a Intimidate from Rhinar. And you can also trigger Beast Within if you have a hand that can't easily convert the Beast Within guaranteed, because you do get to pick with this discard. So if there's a turn you can set up with a Sigil of Cycles, it's very powerful. And then the last new blue card in the main board is Trot Along. This is mainly here just because it can give your claws go again, but Brute can sometimes have problems converting 4-card hands, so Trot Along can be a way to help do that, getting a blue out by playing it and pitching a card for Mandible Claw. So really powerful for Brute. This is really the only hero that plays Trot Along, but it has such good synergy with the Mandible Claws, you just can't really take it out. And it's a blue block 3, so why complain? There's not really a reason to. As you might have noticed, we have a 54 card main board, which means we're adding 6 pretty much every game. If you look at the notes for this deck list, we'll explain them real quick. Versus our most aggressive matchups, which are Aurora and Ninja, we're going to be bringing in 2 Reckless Swings and 1 Shelter from the Storm, just so we can have some extra defense. Reckless Swing helps us end a game, putting them at a 2 life deficit from the start. I guess technically 4, but you generally won't be getting both Reckless Swings off towards the end of a game. And then the 1 Shelter can help us prevent some extra damage if need be, if they're flicking daggers at us, or if they're dealing damage with Rune Chance, or it can be a good block. The rest of the added cards are going to be either 3 Pack Hunt or 3 CNC, depending on if it's a matchup you want more disruption or if they're playing a higher amount of D-Reacts. If they're a deck that generally is going to tend to block you, maybe something like Ira, you'll want to consider the Pack Hunts. But if it's a deck that plays a high amount of D-Reacts, you'll want to consider Syndra for the CNCs and to disrupt some of their plays if they're keeping a good card in your arsenal. If you don't own CNC, you can replace CNC with things like the Weakest Link, Erase Face. Both of them work very well right now. Weakest Link is very good into decks that play a lot of instants, and Erase Face is very good into a lot of these traded decks, that Syndra, that Aurora even as well. For our slower matchups, our Guardian or Enigma matchups mainly, we'll bring in 2 Alpha Rampages and our 1 Pummel, just so we can sort of smite down those decks because they can be very, very powerful sometimes in their blocking. And Alpha Rampage gets us 2 Intimidates, and Pummel can pump us over and make them discard a card. We'll also bring in 3 Pack Hunt for a similar reason, to where it's just an on-demand Intimidate, makes them harder to block. Versus our Assassin matchups, we'll bring in 3 Shelters, 3 Snags, and both of our Reckless Swings. The reason for this is because we want as many blocking cards as possible versus Assassin, as Disruption can very, very hurt Brute. And Snag, my personal favorite tech card. I will keep this in my sideboards until the end of time, until Assassin is the worst deck in the format, just because of how annoying Assassin can be sometimes. This can be whatever other tech card you want, but it's that or Poison, and I think your CYB matchups are okay in general, so I don't think you really need Poison. So 3 Snag just for those matchups. You also have a lot of armor, so that's a big boon to Snag. In specific, and you're going to go down 2 Sigil of Cycles versus those because you're not going to have the most time to set up, and if you do set up, it'd rather be an Alehorn than a Sigil in those matchups. If you're playing it's new and you know it's CYB, you're going to go up 3 Pack Hunts and 2 Alpha Rampages because it's going to be a very long game. You're going to go down the 3rd Sigil of Cycles, and then you're going to also go down the 3 Wild Rides. The Wild Ride does help you be a little more aggressive, but forcing them to spend cards from their hand to use their CYBs right away can mean that you're going to just get free damage through, which is really what you want. You can keep the Wild Rides over the Pack Hunts if you want. I just feel like Pack Hunt is better into that in general, and you still have Go Again with your Agility tokens, as well as your Claws and your Pulpings, if you really need that Go Again to end out a game. And then finally, versus really everything else, we're going to bring in our 2 Reckless Swing because it's just free damage at the end of the day. Our 3 Pack Hunts because they're just, again, free damage at the end of the day. And then 1 Shelter if we're playing against any arcane damage matchups. And if we're not, we're going to be bringing in our 1 Alpha Rampage just so we can punch through. If you'll notice, this deck tells you to bring in 1 Shelter a lot. If you really needed to, you could play only 1 Shelter. 1 Shelter is required, but the other 2 can be sink below if need be. That's personally what I'm doing right now because I only own 1 Shelter from the Storm. Very similar, a lot of decks do that as well. We saw Zen do that because some matchups you're only bringing in the 1 red D-React and you just want the prevention versatility on the Shelter. So 1, I would say, is required. If you don't have any, that's fine. You can play 3 Sink Belows instead. But I would recommend having at least 1 Shelter, and then you can play the other 2, whatever you want. Sink Below or Shelters. But with that, that is going to be the end of the video. I just wanted a quick, fast one because I'm going to be honest, I recorded this video already, and my mic didn't record. So I had to re-record the whole thing. So that's my fault for not checking, I guess. But that is going to be it. Next week, hopefully we can go over Max, if Max is all of his new cards are up on February. If not, I'm sure I'll find something else to upload. I don't know what other deck lists I want to be really talking about for the rest of the set. I think we have another month left. And I've kind of talked about everything already. So let me know in the comments if there's a deck list that you want to see me go over. And other than that, that's going to be it. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.